I am the embodiment of perfect health and rugged strength, and I never get sick. Instead, I fight shit off. Yo, Elliot! So this was a mindset that I developed when I was playing college football. At one point, all of the guys on the team were getting sick. I think we got the flu. And one by one, Bob was sick, Jim was sick, Dave was sick, Rich was sick. And when it came around to Elliot, I did not allow anyone to affirm that I was sick. Now, of course, I had boogers coming out of my nose and I was coughing, but I was not sick. Instead, Elliot was fighting something off. This is a mindset shift from victim mentality to victor mentality. I don't get sick. Instead, I support my immune system in fighting something off. Perfect health is your truth. And in order to fight for your truth, in order to stand for your truth, in order to believe in your truth, you support your truth. So fighting when you're supporting your immune system is a lot different than fighting with that yang mentality when you're going to crush it, when you're going to kill it, you're going to get it done. It works actually in the reverse when it comes to supporting your immune system or your parasympathetic branch of your autonomic nervous system, your rest and digest, repair and support branch of your nervous system. In order to support that, well, we gotta rest and digest, chill and support. So this week, instead of crushing the weights like I did last week and previous weeks, instead, I decided to do this. So here I'm going to list some of the wondrous benefits of bouncing. Number one, it circulates the lymphatic juices and cleanses the lymph system. Number two, it helps the body remove toxins. Number three, it improves the immune system. Number four, it improves metabolic function. Number five, it stimulates all of the cells in your internal organs. All that jiggling and bouncing up and down is like a massage to your innards. Number six, it's gentle on your joints and ligaments. Number seven, it's considered to be a strength, aerobic flexibility, and endurance exercise. It improves balance and coordination. And finally, I love it because it's low impact, high intensity cardio when you do it Tabata style. So as you'll notice here, I'm not just bouncing, but I'm also sprinting in intervals. And I'm using the Tabata protocol. And if you don't know much about that, that's an interval training protocol where you go 15 seconds hard and then 45 seconds lower intensity. So besides bouncing, in order to support my immune system and fighting shit off, I also decided to make some good old chicken soup like Mama used to make. Only this time I made superpower chicken soup called bone broth. And I'd like to share with you an incredible resource that I've had in my library for over a decade. Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon, that has a ton of traditional recipes, meaning foods our ancestors used to eat, the way they prepared them, prior to canned soup, they would boil bones in order to make broth, and they would boil it for hours and hours and hours on end. And that's exactly what I did when I made bone broth this week. You can see the recipe right here if you'd like. You can take a screenshot of that, or you can get a copy of Nourishing Traditions yourself, and it's on page 124. And I had these bones that I had been saving up for the past few weeks. Every week Colleen makes a whole chicken for our family, and I've been putting them in the freezer and waiting for a moment in order to make this superpower bone broth. Part of the reason why I call it a super-powered super soup is because bone broth is known for supporting digestive health. It's known for supporting joint health, which is really super important for me since I've torn many of my ligaments over the years. And those two things are critical to me and my development and becoming the strongest version of myself because number one, I've taken massive doses of antibiotics, particularly early in my life. When I was a kid, I used to get strep throat quite a bit. And before we knew the damaging effects of antibiotics, my parents would take me to the doctor and they'd just give me massive doses of this stuff, which has caused me to have a myriad of different negative health side effects my entire life. Like I get rashes and stuff, and if I'm not very careful with the foods that I eat, I react poorly. So I stay pretty close to an antifungal Paleolithic diet if I want to feel real good. The other thing I discovered is that by taking some antibiotics, your ligaments can get really weak. You can do some research. They weaken your tendons and you have more susceptibility to injuring them. And you know, with me, I've torn both biceps and my Achilles tendon, and I'm a pretty strong dude. So in order to support my digestive health and my joint health, I'm taking bone broth. Now, in order to make it a superpower bone broth, there are a few things that I did differently than when you're just making chicken soup. Number one is I added these chicken feet to it. Now, chicken feet have a lot of collagen in it and a lot of other helpful benefits that are associated with keeping your joints strong, like gelatin and glucosamine and chondroitin. So the bones that are in the bone broth from my leftover chicken, plus the big chicken that I threw in there, the hearts and organs and all, and these chicken feet allow this bone broth to be not just a chicken soup for my soul, but a chicken soup for my bones, body, brain, and brawn. So if you follow me on Instagram, like you should, then you definitely saw my story where I took you through the process of creating this batch of bone broth. And you also noticed that halfway through, I realized that my pot was too small. Colleen ran out and got me a bigger pot, and I had to transfer it here. Once I transferred it, I was ready to let that sucker simmer all night long. Then, as you see, I put it through a strainer. I had my beautiful golden soup, and I put them in these cups. And if I really like it, and if I notice the benefit of it, I'll just continue to use it. So I'll keep you posted. So when fighting something off, bouncing and bone broth might not be enough. Also, I like working out, so I decided that I was going to take advantage of this lower intensity week by doing certain exercises I don't do much of, like these cross box step-ups. I love these exercises because they work in the frontal plane, and most of the exercises that we do in the gym are all in the sagittal plane. Very rarely do we move side to side, and what happens is we start to develop this pattern overload within our joints, particularly the hips, and that leaves us just not as balanced as normal. So this is an exercise that I can't use real heavy loads with because, as you notice, I'm crossing over each time I step up. So I thought this was a perfect opportunity to use some lighter loads, but do some more complex exercises. Really, the more complex an exercise is, the lighter the load has to be. So it forced me not to be a big beast using big barbell weights. Instead, I just used these dumbbells and did cross-box step-ups. I also decided to do this. Well, it gets better anyway. I decided that doing single leg squats would really support my imbalance from left to right, since I've got that right Achilles tendon injury that I'm healing. And I did multiple variations of this single leg box squat, if you notice. I liked it, I enjoyed it. I don't do them very often, but I think I'll include them in my program, and I'm wanting to build back up to that deep single leg pistol squat that I used to be able to do. So we'll see that progress. Afterwards, I wanted to continue working my legs, particularly my hips, and I wanted to get some hip extension done, but I didn't want to do squats, and I didn't want to do those lying hip extensions on the bench that you see people do. I just wanted something a bit more dynamic, so what I decided instead was to do these squat chops. I went inside of my garage where I've got this beautiful cable machine. I attached a rope and I did these. Some of the amazing benefits of squat chops is that they work you in the sagittal, frontal, and transverse plane, if you notice. So I'm working multiple planes of motion like an athlete here with this exercise. Also, too, you'll notice that I'm coming up with a bit of a pop. So it's a bit of an explosive exercise and it's non-axial loading. So I get to work my legs without compressing my spine. At the end of the workout, I decided I want to get a bicep pump. Since tearing both of my biceps, I've realized that direct bicep work is pretty important for me. I've never done direct bicep work, and that might be a part of the reason why I tore both biceps. Most of the time, I just do a lot of pulling. That's how my biceps grew over time. But by doing this direct bicep work, I give my hands, my forearms, my elbows, and even my shoulders, as I stabilize and maintain good posture through this, a really good stimulation. And then finally, I finished the workout with some Swiss ball core work. This is not really taking full advantage of the benefits of using a Swiss ball, which is the instability that it creates in the movement. But instead, I just laid on my back and passed this ball from side to side, and I tell you what, it made me sore as hell, so it was a pretty good workout. So that's it. Not too much of an exciting week with regard to my workout. I did make that bone broth and I did a bunch of yoga also. If you guys like this kind of video and you want to know more about the things that I'm doing outside the gym, now of course I'll always include lifting because that's what I do. But if you like what I'm cooking, if you want to know what Elliott's cooking, can you smell what yo Elliott's cooking? Or if you want to see some of the yoga routines that I'm doing, I'll also create a resource for you to see that. But besides that, I'm excited to be expressing myself again, sharing with you, and making these videos. So we'll see where this leads us. Done.